we are assembled here in this seminar, and we have our guests, Srijukta Narsingha Mishra, Senior Advocate and Leader of Opposition, Legislative Assembly. He is our chief guest, and Mr. Surendranath Kara. He has come from Cuttack. He is a renowned advocate of High Court Bar, and he becomes our chief speaker. And as you know, our district and session judge, Srijukta R.K. Patnaik, is our guest of honor. And now we are going to start our seminar. At first, I will address the gathering about the guests, a brief description of their personalities. Srijukta Narsingha Mishra, Honorable Leader of Opposition, Legislative Assembly. I should not speak much about him. As you know, he is a local person, and I came with his contact perhaps in the year 1973-74, when I and our member Ditya Krishna Das went to his house for the negotiation of his sister with the marriage of Diti, and from that date I came to know him, and he is a very good advocate, and he was public prosecutor for some time. When he was public prosecutor, I had the occasion to meet him in his chamber, and also, whether he will remember or not, he came once to argue in a case in the court of CJM Bargarh. That was also my occasion to interact with him, and I was very much pleased. I was inspired with his personalities, and you know better than me, so I should not take much time. And as you know about Mr. Surendranath Kara, he was a student of Mahavinayak School in the district of Cuttack. He passed his matriculation in the year 1962. He is senior to me 1 year, and he passed his law. Law graduate. He was a law graduate, and he passed LLB examination in the year 1970.
It is indeed a very great honor to invite distinguished guests to deliver talk on today's topic of the seminar, the governing role of judiciary. I have the proud privilege of speaking something about the topic. As you know, seminar is but an intensive study on a chosen subject. Today's topic, fairly speaking, would be a setting contrast to yesterday's topic, that was justice weeps in silence. During Ramarajya, there was justice. Sita, after successfully passing in the Agni Pariksha, was banished by Rama. Both Rama and Sita knew the truth that Sita was pure and just. And justice was there when Sita was banished for no fault of hers, but could not open its lip, just wept in silence. In Kurusabha, Draupadi was disrobed in the court itself. Justice was there too, simply to weep in silence. My point of argument is, had there been independence of judiciary, matter would have been different. Independent judiciary is insulated against any influence of any other wing of governance or any other agency or authority. The first President of India, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, speaking in the Constituent Assembly in India, had emphasized the need of the judiciary to be independent of the executive and competent enough in itself. Truth remains that in a civilized country, independence of judiciary is the backbone of civilized governance. Alexander Hamilton many years ago had stated, the judiciary has no influence over either the sword or the purse, no direction either of the strength or of the wealth of the society, and can take no active resolution whatsoever. He may truly said to have neither force nor will, but merely judgment. The greatest strength of the judiciary is faith of people in it. Faith, confidence, and acceptability are sober acclamation that cannot be commanded, they are to be carried. And it can only be done by developing and applying the rule of law appropriately and ethically. When the integrity of the representative process is being threatened, when transient mobsters put our rights in jeopardy, and when all systems of accountability fail, it is the judiciary which rightfully rises in the occasion. The unprecedented and exceptional governing role of judges in India has since been highly acclaimed in the whole of the world. The Supreme Court has been set up at the final peak of the Constitution, having prerogatives to scrutinize even parliamentary amendments. There are instances when the executive has almost invited the help of judiciary to give them political cover for unpopular decisions they might have to make. The court has created its own powers in decision after decision, be it the authority to review constitutional amendment or the mode of appointing judges. The first ever decision of the Apex Court in Shankari Prasad case, the Supreme Court held that an act of parliament duly passed under Article 368 relating to the amendment of the Constitution would be valid if it curtailed any of the fundamental rights conferred by Part 3 of the Constitution. The above view was affirmed by the Supreme Court in Sajjan Singh case, but in the later stage, the same decision was overruled by the decision made in Golaknath's case. The decision in Golaknath's case had been passed by the special bench of the Supreme Court having 11 judges, where question came for decision was calling upon the amending power conferred by Article 366 of the Constitution. Again, a bench of 13 judges of the Supreme Court in Kesavananda Bharati case were confronted with the questions which had been decided in Golaknath's case. The Parliament inserted a new Article 31C, providing the law passed for giving effect to the directive principle specified in clause B and C of Article 39, not to be challenged on the ground that it is inconsistent with or it takes away or abrogates any of the rights granted in Article 14, 19 and 31. The validity of this amendment has been upheld in Kesavananda Bharati's case, but in a subsequent time, the validity of the Kesavananda Bharati's case, a bench of 13 judges was constituted to go into the correctness of the judgment. Then the Attorney General opened the case by saying that the concept of basic structure of the Constitution being unamendable, had created considerable difficulty in the way of the government and the parliament. There were differences opinion between the advocates concerning the issue. The most versatile and the eminent advocate, Nani Palkiwala, made an impassioned address. He said that no case had been made for reconsideration of the matter. The feelings of the judges that the height of eloquence to which Palkiwala rose on the occasion had seldom been equaled and never surpassed in the history of Supreme Court. Next.
Good afternoon to all of you. Esteemed Sri Narsingh Misra, Leader of Opposition, State Legislative Assembly, Sri Surendranath Kaur, Senior Advocate, High Court of Odisha, Cuttack, Mr. President, Sri Bhismadev Saraf, Mr. Pradhan, the co-chairman, Mr. Sahu, the convener of this seminar, Mr. Secretary, all the learned office bearers of the Bar Association, esteemed guests of the dais, learned advocates of the Bar Association, Baragarh, my dear learned advocates friends, learned judicial officers of the local headquarters, members of the print and electronic media, dear students of the law colleges, members of the public, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to Mr. President and all other office bearers of the Bar Association for giving all of us this wonderful opportunity to be a part and parcel of the seminar. I'm also extremely privileged for the kind presence of our esteemed chief guest, Sri Narsingh Misra, and esteemed chief speaker, Sri Surendranath Kaur, for their presence at the seminar. It reminds me of the seminar which was held in the month of November. It was perhaps for the first time in the history of the bar, a seminar was held. I thank Mr. President, Sri Saraf, and all the office bearers, including the senior advocates, members of the bar, for organizing such a wonderful seminar a couple of months before. I often request the members of the bar to hold and organize seminars because it is absolutely essential, especially for the young advocates, because one gets an opportunity to share the opinions, views and experiences as a lawyer. It is also a forum where the learned senior advocates of the bar can pass on the knowledge to the junior advocates. Such sharing and dissemination of knowledge is absolutely necessary and sine qua non, which cannot be denied. Yesterday we had a seminar. Some of the honorable judges of the High Court were present. There was a wholehearted participation by all the speakers. A lot many information was said. I often say to my brothers and sisters, judicial colleagues, about the sharing of information, which according to me is the knowledge. And as it is very often said, knowledge is the potential. So this is certainly a wonderful occasion for all of us in sharing the knowledge. We are extremely blessed for the kind presence of Sri Narsingh Misra, a scholarly personality. He needs no introduction. We will have the occasion to learn many things from him. So also from Sri Surendranath Thakur, who is our esteemed speaker for today's seminar. Thanks Mr. Pradhan, the convener of the seminar, for such a wonderful speech. And just to sum up, as we know, the Constitution came into being in the year 1950. Under the Constitution, 3 organs were created. As we know, one is the executive, the other one is legislature, and then the judiciary. These are the 3 important organs of the Constitution, which are to function simultaneously for good governance. As we also know, the role of executive is to enforce the law. The responsibility of the legislature is to create the law, make the law, and the role of judiciary as such is to apply the law, at times interpreting the law, if necessary to make new laws by resorting to interpretation. If there is a law in existence, if there is a need of application, if there is a requirement of some kind of interpretation, it is the role of the judiciary. At times, in absence of laws, laws are made by the courts. It is called the judgment-made laws. So precisely this is the roles and responsibilities of the 3 organs of the Constitution. A lot of debate is made, which according to me, not essential. At times not worthy enough when there is a comparison between the 3 branches of the Constitution. There is criticism in a democratic society. Criticism is bound to appear. and it should be welcomed, especially when a comparison is made as to who is supreme, whether the legislature or the judiciary. It is no argument at all. Supreme is the Constitution. Supreme is the people of India. Supreme is the democracy. It is the people of India who run the state. It is the Constitution which is supreme. No one is above the Constitution, not even the judiciary. So to claim that one organ of the Constitution is supreme would be a fallacy. We are the means of governance.